Hey there, hope all is well. Back at you today with some more RTD news updates. And today I have a few articles all dealing with currency, and the most important one is a economist that is on the bandwagon for banning cash here in the United States. And so let's get into these articles. And as always, if you're new to RTD, click the subscribe button for more RTD's interviews as well as updates, and as well as visit the RTD University page to get an idea of what the rethinking dollar concept is all about. So let's dive into today's articles. All right, today I have just three articles I want to share with you. And the first one here is from Crypto Coin News, and it's Nobel Laureate Economist. U.S. should move to digital currency, get rid of fiat. The next one is from Market Watch, and it says, these are the currencies most sensitive to a Trump presidency. And then the last one here has to deal with the renminbi in China, and this is from Radio Free Asia, and it says, China clamps down on currency flows. So let's dive into the first one. So here we have another economist, beyond the original guy who wrote the book, Kenneth Rogoff, on the curse of cash. Another economist that says U.S. should move to a digital currency and get rid of fiat. And so he tries to lay out a case as to why he feels it'll be beneficial for us, the people, or for the United States in general. So basically what I'll do is just thumb through a little bit, and I'll include it below for you to take a more in-depth look if you're interested. So just to start off here, it says Joseph Stellengraf, Nobel Prize winning economist, recently said that the U.S. should phase out fiat currency and move toward digital currency at the World Economic Forum annual meeting in Davos, Switzerland. Speaking in this session called Ending Corruption, Stellengraf said that phasing out money and introducing digital currency has benefits that outweigh the cost in the long term. He states by saying, you can put into the context of one of the big issues being discussed here in Davos this year is the backlash against globalization. The darker side of globalization, the lack of transparency in global financial markets, and the secrecy havens that the Panama Papers expose just reinforce what we already knew has meant that there is a global framework for both corruption and tax evasion and tax avoidance. He adds that it's down to these secrecy havens that people are more likely to engage in these activities where they can enjoy the economic returns they receive. However, if these secrecy havens didn't exist, then the benefits linked to these activities would be greatly reduced. One of the countries that hasn't done a good job in this fighting corruption is the United States, according to Stiglitz, and believes that one potential remedy is to phase out fiat money and introduce digital currency, he adds. I believe very strongly that for the countries like the United States, we should move to a digital currency and get rid of currency. There are important issues of privacy and cybersecurity, but it would certainly have big advantages. And so, yeah, that's interesting how he, is another guy that's on the bandwagon. So it looks like there will probably be more, Nobel Prize winning gentlemen and authors and economists coming out soon saying that it'll be good for everybody because of, the wealthy folks that are avoiding paying their fair share. And so this is meant to get back at those that have millions and billions laying up somewhere. We're going for them. And like always, it's sold as, having the wealthy pay their fair share. But then it also trickles down to the normal people like myself. But anyway, here, just finish off. It says, Bitcoin shut down by U.S. It said, despite his recent views on phasing out fiat currency and introducing a digital currency such as Bitcoin, in the past, Stiglitz has not always been in favor of the currency, once stating that Bitcoin has been shut down by the U.S. government. When asked a question on the opinion of Bitcoin at a public event at London School of Economics in September last year, the main use of Bitcoin has been to circumvent tax authorities and regulation. I think the U.S. government did the right thing of shutting or trying to shut it down, and I think effectively it has done that. So interesting that his thoughts are that they want to go digital currency, but Bitcoin, because it's not controlled or regulated by the government, is not a good thing. So interesting there. It says Harvard professor Kenneth Rogoff said on CNBC last year that cash provided the ideal avenue for tax evasion. In order to tackle tax evasion and illicit activities, he believes that the amount of physical cash around the world needs to be reduced. And then it says Indian Prime Minister Modi has already moved 90% of his country's currency from circulation with the removal of 500,000 renminbi to curb tax evasion, corruption, and terrorism. So it looks like tax evasion is going to be the main theme as we move further in 2017 for this cashless push. So interesting article. If you're interested in reading it, it's below. Here's an article here from Market Watch, and it's these are the currencies most sensitive to a Trump presidency. And so here it gives you a little graph of some currencies that's on the up and down a little bit. We got the Canadian dollar, the Mexican peso, and then it's giving you an idea what the currencies this young lady is referring to is the Mexico peso, We have the Canadian dollar, the Russian ruble, and we have the Chinese yuan, and then it finishes off with the U.S. dollar. So I'll just thumb through it briefly and give you an idea of what she's talking about. It says Donald Trump has been sworn in as a 45th U.S. president, and with a tendency to assume a protectionist stance and an aptitude for surprising markets, currency investors are on high alert. Here are a few currencies that might be the most vulnerable to gyrations inspired by Trump's policies, actions, or social media salvos. So far, Mexican peso, the reaction to his inaugural speech has been most pronounced in the Mexican peso, which put up one of its biggest single-day moves in months. Mexico has been at the centerpiece of Trump's trade and immigration policies, highlighted by his pledge to build a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. The peso, USDMX, is down as of right now, half a point. It says jump 1.8%, marking the largest one-day increase since November 15. Traders were positioned for a bit more clarity from Trump's speech on trade deals, but he was not very clear about it in his speech. It says the peso weakened 19% against the dollar in 2016, and despite Friday's surge, is down 4.2% so far in 2017. So hard times for our brothers and sisters below the border, beneath us. Canadian dollars, the U.S. neighbor to the north, Canadian dollar is down almost a third of a point. Also has been sensitive to comments from U.S. officials. The loonie fell this week after U.S. Commerce Secretary nominee Wilbur Ross said that coming administration would seek to renegotiate the North American Free Trade Agreement. The agreement impacts both Canadian and Mexican trade. Rubles. Russia's economy has been contracting for the past 2 years due to lower oil prices and international sanctions related to the country's annexation of Crimea. The ruble began plunging in the summer of 2014, along with a sharp drop in oil prices as the country's biggest dependent on oil revenues. But since the beginning of the last year, President Trump has shown public admiration to Russian President Vladimir Putin. The Russian ruble gained ground throughout the campaign. Last year, it strengthened 16% against the dollar. So far this year, the ruble gained nearly 2%, rising to the highest level since July 2015. So ruble's actually on up and up. The yuan is down almost a third of a point, continues to weaken against the dollar. The slide is not yet only due to Trump's negative remarks about China and the trade deals with the second largest economy, but some of China's own policies. The yuan weakened 7% in 2016, primarily due to capital flight. U.S. dollar. Lastly, we have already seen what a comment from President Trump can do to the dollar. Earlier this week, investors sold the dollar, reacting to the weekend Wall Street Journal interview in which Trump said the dollar is too strong. So just off him commenting, saying the dollar is too strong, led those that speculate to say, hey, he's probably about to do something crazy. Let's try to move against this right now. So interesting there. First president in a while, as it's reported, to speak against the dollar or speak on the dollar. So I think that's actually good news because he's different in regards to not sticking to the script thus far. So we'll see. Anyway, articles below if you're interested in reading more. Last article here from Radio Free Asia. And it's China clamps down on currency flows. And so from the prior article, it mentioned that the renminbi was having some problems. And so it shows here when the government begins clamping down on their own currency outflows. So it says China is plugging holes in its foreign exchange rules to keep its currency and reserves from sinking below key levels as worries about U.S. policies grows. Regulators have been cracking down on all forms of capital outflow in an effort to keep the yuan from dropping below the psychological barrier of 7 to the U.S. dollar, while foreign exchange reserves approach the U.S. $3 trillion mark. The twin defenses appear to be behind the January 1st notice that from the State Administration of Foreign Exchange requiring individuals to justify currency conversions even within a legal limit of $50,000 per year. Under the new rules, banks have been ordered to report all transactions of over 50,000 yuan, which is $7,271 in the Federal Reserve notes, compared with earlier limits of 200,000. So initially, anything around 29,000 was supposed to be reported, but because people are finding ways of getting their money out of China in fear of it being further depreciated, they're basically trying to do smaller transactions. So now that they're tracking anything that's about 7,000 that leaves the country, they want to know about it. So it says citizens must sign a pledge that the funds will not be used for overseas purchases of property, securities, life insurance, or any other insurance of an investment nature. the official Chinese language, Chinese daily report it. So it's interesting here. You have to sign some information saying that, you know, when your money going out of the country to wherever it's going, it's not for anything that's is meant to protect you from harm in the currency, such as an insurance policy or in some type of investment that kind of counterbalances the minimizing or the depletion of your purchasing power. It says applicants must confirm compliance with money laundering rules and other restrictions under penalties of losing the right to convert currency for 3 years and the threat of possible investigation. So just goes to show here, that's just a little something right there. But, you know, the People's Bank of China, or the Public Bank of, I can't think of it offhand. But anyway, they're clamping down on anything leaving the country because they are concerned and they're obviously losing control of their own market manipulation there. So because of all that excessive debt and things they got going on there. So sounds like it's more of the same all around the world, more debt, not able to repay it back. And so the people suffer because the people are holding on to the paper. Anyway, this is today's news update. Hope you enjoyed it. If you found it informative, please leave me a comment below. And as always, share this information so family and friends can become more aware. And other than that, subscribe if you're new and look forward to bringing more news and updates. All right, see you later.